Okay, here we have city weather, and we're going to work backwards. You will notice that up top we have a snippet of code from the object class, and down below we have a snippet of code from the client class. All right, so what we want to begin thinking about are variable names from the very beginning. Notice that we have down here at the bottom, we have our instantiation, and we're using variables. But when we actually construct the city weather report, let's go right here, we're going to change variable names for the most part. So we're going to send precipitation, but we're going to call it precip. And we're going to send temperature, but we're going to call it temp. Months is the one name that can stay the same. Though, as a practice, I probably would rename that one as well. I would. But it can stay the same because the months are never going to change. The temperature, it's either going to be uh, Fahrenheit or Celsius, and the precipitation will either be centimeters or inches. So we don't want any confusion because they are actually going to need to be separate names. All right, so we've got that taken care of. Notice that pattern. Let's talk about the private instance variable. Let's talk about what happens as soon as the report is birthed into existence. So let's go up here. The city weather report is birthed into existence using 3 arrays of information. We are going to immediately use our private instance variables here up in green. And we're going to copy. We're going to copy the month array to its own private instance of M. We're going to copy the data in the temp array to its own private instance of T. And we're going to copy the data in the precip array to its own private instance of P. We're copying. We're offloading the information to new arrays that are private. They're going to be private to this first report. And why are we doing that? Because we need to clear this out in case we want to make many, many more reports. We have to keep these variables clear and clean. So, and of course, each report needs its own data, private instances of its own data. So keep this in mind. Stop the video now and take a look at the pattern. The key here is that you should not be using the same variable names over and over and over in a situation like this. Right? Month is the only one you probably can get away with. The others you need to practice different variable names. Hopefully you pause the video, you understand the need to use different variable names, similar but different variable names. The assignment instructions are over on the right. I threw them into Microsoft Word. They go well into Microsoft Word. That way you can take them with you on the road. You can convert them to PDF, whatever you need. But I was able to shrink them down once I copied and pasted the steps into Microsoft Word. So let's build this Pojo. Okay, Pojo is a plain old Java object. Step 1, create. I'm sorry, we're at A. We're at A. Add instance variables for month, temperature, and precipitation arrays. You've seen those already. Okay. Our private instance variables, M, T, and P, they're different, right? Step 2, we need a constructor that accepts 3 arrays as parameters. You've already got a sneak peek at that, right? Here is the method header and signature. Well, the method header, name, and signature. So it has three parts. Let's stretch this out. Oh. All right, there's our constructor. Header, name, and signature. Now, as soon as this report is born, we're going to transfer the data into the new arrays that are waiting. Okay, they're waiting to do the work. They're waiting to hold the data that has come in. These are our private instances. So now the data that came in has been copied over so that this city report can have its own, arrays of data. All right, so let's see, step C. Getters and setters for now are always going to be the same, okay? For every private instance variable, you need getters, so that's 3 getters, and you need setters. That's 3 setters, a total of 6 blocks of code. Let's get our getters first. Now getters, at this level, we're not doing much with them. I like filling out a worksheet, right? Make sure the data types match. Get month, data type, get temp, data type, get precip. And we're going to return the new, right? We don't want to return these original, right? We've transferred the data over into their own array. So we're going to return the new information. Okay. At this level, these will always look the same. Okay. This is pretty much like a template. That's why it's called a POJO or plain old Java object, because at this level, it all looks the same. And it all is going to come together the same. The getters and the setters are going to come together the same. I'm just making some space here. Next, we need our setters. Setters, again, it's just template work. You can go back to 5.08 and see the same thing. Let's make some space here. I'll shrink it down. There we go. Now the setters set. Notice that the setters will accept, right? Will accept the original array information and then make the reassignment. For now, we're having our setters do the same thing as our constructor. Why? Okay, that's a question you should be asking yourself. We're having the setters do the same thing as the constructors because we're not going to be using them for any custom work. This is a simple program. The getters and the setters are just going to be a template. So the set method, right? And set month. Now, how this was changed, I don't know. Let's call this set temp. This was a good catch on my behalf. Set precip. Somehow those got corrupt. So we have our set method names. So these set methods. Let's explain that. Let's explain it now. Okay, what these set methods are here for. After our report exists, right, in state, in memory, if we need to make any changes, we can always send the month and send the array of temps in, and we can make any changes we need to make here. For now, we're not going to use them, so we make them the same as our constructor. But in here, we could have code in here for routine things we might need to change. Okay. So in other words, these getters and setters, for the most part, won't be used very much. They are there, the getters are here to retrieve information after your object is situated and in memory. You need to go grab something. That's what the getters are here for now. The setters are set up to make basic changes in the future if we need them, but you will find that you can get rid of the getters and setters and the program will run fine. Okay. But if you need to then if you need to extend the program, if you need to access, one of these private arrays of information, you won't be able to without the getters and setters. So the getters and setters are here to be able to access and change the private information once it's set up. Even after you run the program once, everything is set up in memory. You can extend the program for additional capabilities. You can always be able to have access to that private data for each report, even though we're only making one report. So getters and setters right now, just template work, right? A template. And let's move on with the instructions. This is 6.01, by the way. So we will need a method to calculate the average temperature and a method to calculate the total precipitation, right? These, there are all kinds of ways to do this in turn, but let's just take a look at a sample. Some sample methods, right? I need to push this out. I'm a stickler for neatness, right? And let's just show you one, okay? The method for total will look the same. Now you're probably asking yourself, why doesn't this accept an array of information? Okay, because it's working on the object that was born with data. There's no need to send anything to this method. The object was born with its own data set. That's why we copied it into M, T, and P. So no parameter is needed for this particular method. Same thing for your total method. No parameter value will be needed because the data for the report, it was constructed with the data. So from here, this is a typical, what we call a POJO, plain old Java object, private instance variables, right? A constructor that immediately makes, copies the information over to the private instance. And these getters and setters for now, they're not doing a whole lot. Later, we're going to show you the power of what these getters and setters can do. For now, we just want them here because they are tools that we might need in the future, because all of this data for each report is private. We need to be able to access that in an emergency, or even just to print. Once this private data has been set up, once the first report has been set up and its data is all private, if you want to do a reprint, you're going to have to go through the get method, right? So they have an important job, but we're not using them yet. They need to be there. That's the biggest confusion with getters and setters at the beginning. You know, we're not quite using them yet, but you do need them. They do need to be there. I hope this helps. You should be able to carry on from here. We want to make sure that you set up this object class correctly.